Hello, welcome to MoreBikes.co.uk. This is another episode in our series of maintenance tips for your motorcycle. Basically how to do things on your bike that a competent home mechanic can do with a fair amount of ease. Now, as ever, and we'll say this at the start of every video, if you are unsure of what you're about to do on your bike, or you want some pointers, or you're not happy with your work on the bike, or anything that causes you any concern, then please do go and consult a mechanic. Take your bike along, get them to have a look at it, tell you what needs to be done, or get them to do the job yourself. You are the master of the destiny of your motorcycle. Don't forget that. But if you want to have a go, then what this series does is we show you in step-by-step format how to do the work on your bike. Today, it's all about changing the chain and sprockets on your motorcycle, and by default then it's how to change your chain if you just want to do that, if you don't want to change the sprockets. It's usually a good idea though, if you are changing your chain, to change your sprockets as well, at the very least your rear sprocket, but we'll show you how to look at your front sprocket as well on this, the motorcycle that we're doing the work on. This is a 1989 Kawasaki ZXR 750 H1. We've chosen this bike because everything that applies to this motorcycle will apply to your motorcycle too, generally, no matter what bike you have or what year it is. We'll show you how to do the work on this bike. Like I said, it'll be step by step through the whole process. Our mechanic Rob will take you through right from the very beginning right to the very end of the job. And to kick things off, we need to show you what tools you need to achieve a chain and sprocket change on your motorcycle. So here we are, all laid out. We get our things through XL Moto. XL Moto are involved with us with these videos, and you can go and find everything that you need that we use if you want to use it as well at XL Moto. You can click the link that's appearing alongside me on screen right now, and they will take you straight to XL Moto. Don't click it yet, watch the video and then click the link. If you want any information further, or you want to see what other episodes are in this series of bike maintenance, then that is listed below in the description underneath this video. Let's get on with the tools then that you're going to need for this job. First up, cloths. We're big fans of cloths, always have cloths, clean cloths, cloths. Cloths is the central part of this part of the presentation. Cloths. Don't forget your cloths, they're essential. You're going to need obviously the bits you're going to put onto the bike, and we're using a JT chain, quite a heavyweight chain for the ZXR. We've got a 16 tooth front sprocket and a 46 tooth JT rear sprocket. That doesn't mean that is the size you need for your bike. Obviously you need to reference what you've got on your bike currently and the manufacturer's recommendations as to what you put on your bike, but you're an adult, you know what you're doing. We don't need to tell you that. There's a spare link. We have a chain tool here. This is for putting the chain on the bike and making the connection. We'll get to that later on. Torque wrench. Always a good idea. Make sure that you torque everything up to the manufacturer's specifications. We'll get to how you find out what those are in a moment. We have an angle grinder, 30 seconds of fun, but really worth having if you can. WD-40, and we've got various ratchets and a hammer and a flathead screwdriver and an Allen key or two. So that's it in terms of tools. One thing to tell you about that we don't have on the trolley. Rob, where's the manual? We've got the manual. Is it on the trolley? Am I looking at it? Ah! Shut up. Is this the Haynes manual? This is for our bike, like I say, Kawasaki ZXR 750 H1, and we swear by it. Haynes manuals are absolutely fantastic. We really recommend you get hold of one for your motorcycle. Not only do they take you through how to do things in photographic form, but they'll also tell you all the right settings, sizes, everything you need to know, and in some cases the parts numbers as well for your motorcycle. So torque wrench settings, we talked about the torque wrench. Torque wrench settings are essential for bike maintenance. You must torque everything up to the manufacturer's recommendations. Don't trust the bloke down the pub who tells you you don't need a torque setting, and as long as it's tight, you can sort of gauge it. Not a good idea. Get a torque wrench and do the job right. Get a Haynes manual as well for your motorcycle. They're not very expensive, and they are essential bits of kit for every home mechanic. So that's it in terms of the things that you will need to change the chain and sprockets on your motorcycle. Rob, our mechanic, Rob Bean from Mean Bean Motorcycles, He will be the man who's taking us through the process. If you want to contact Rob or speak to him about anything to do with your motorcycle, his contact details will be at the bottom of this video description as well. That's it. Let's get on then with changing the chain and sprockets on the bike. Okay, so chain and sprocket on the bike. First things first is we need to get the cover off and get the nut off here, off the front sprocket. We'll do that by putting the back brake on, holding the back wheel in place, and then getting the nut off, fingers crossed, hopefully. And then it'll be caliper off, chain off, back wheel out, and we'll regroup at that point. But at the moment, Rob's going to take the cover off, and then it'll be getting that lock nut off the front sprocket. Now we do have the extractor tool, but we're taking the chain off. This chain is not going anywhere, it's going in the bin after this. So what we've just done, or what Rob's just done, is he's just taken the head off the rivet there, pop that off, 30 seconds of work with the angle grinder, and then that's done. So that chain can then go. So the next step is Rob will take that off, and it was nice to have an angle grinder going on in the workshop studio for a moment. Okay, so you've seen Rob take the chain off. He took the old sprocket off, put the new sprocket on, torqued that up. Actually needed quite a big torque setting, so I had to do it with the larger torque spanner. You ready?
Yep.
Sorry, bear with me. Okay, finger out. And now we're trying to get the spindle through the back wheel. Just down a bit, down a bit, down a bit. There you go, there you go, there you go. Right, hang on. There you go, mate.
And that's all the way in.
So as I was saying, Rob took the sprocket off, put the new sprocket on, and then it's just a simple case of checking the spindle, cleaning the spacers, giving them a feel, running his finger around in the bearing just to make sure there's nothing that notches or catches. There isn't, so it's a simple case of putting the spindle back in. We are doing another video, we will have done another video, depending on how you're looking at these in which order, of how to take the back wheel out and put it back in. So go and find that if you want the full specification on what to grease, how to do it properly, because that's all in there. For this one, we're concentrating on the chain and sprockets, so it's a simple case of putting the back wheel back in, putting the spindle back in, and then it'll be the front sprocket and chain goes on. It sounds fairly straightforward, and to be fair, this is a fairly straightforward job, but it can be quite labour intensive. So just make sure you've got enough time set aside, you've got the tools ready, because the one thing you don't want to do is have a wheel out, spacers out, spindle out, you know, and the sprocket off, and then you need to go and get something. So that's a good tip to bear that in mind. So what Rob's doing now is he's just getting the back wheel in, and he's going to just work on the adjusters to make sure the wheel, as you look down from the top here, is actually straight and in line as it needs to be with the bike, so that the chain can feed around the front sprocket and it doesn't pull, it's not pulling against it, causing excessive wear on the rear sprocket and the chain itself, and in turn the front sprocket as well. So the next job, once Rob's set that up and he's got the wheel in the correct position, is it'll be the front sprocket and then it'll be fitting the chain. So that's kind of it for the chain and sprockets replacement. Things to bear in mind, Rob's just going to wrap up now, put the chain cover back on, put the caliper back on this side, and put the cover, front sprocket cover back on up here. So a couple of things to bear in mind is at the end of fitting the chain, you'll have noticed that Rob was setting it back on the marks, the adjuster marks on the wheel, but he doesn't just rely on that. Rob also looks down the wheel, make sure the two outer edges of the wheel look in line with everything else. A visual on the chain as well, make sure that looks parallel and straight all the way down. Spin the wheel a couple of times, you just get a feel for it. But what you will notice straight away is if anything is wrong. Check the slack all the way round, so turn the wheel and check the slack as you're going round, give it a couple of pats, and you want the slack on the chain to be consistent. So don't have any tight spots, don't have any stiff links, anything like that. It should be nice and consistent, it should look like a good chain. Visually, you'll pick it up straight away if there isn't, and don't kid yourself, if it doesn't look right, it's not right. That's the great thing about chain and sprockets change. You'll know straight away if it's not going according to plan. If it isn't, step back, go back through the process, repeat the process, and you'll soon find where the error is. But that's it for a chain and sprocket. It can be quite a physical job, as you've seen, so make sure you're okay with that. Make sure you've got the time to do the job, ideally in one go, and you've got the room to do it as well, because you've got to get the back wheel out and you've got to be quite physical getting that sprocket on. So that's it for chain and sprockets here. We've got plenty more episodes in this series of how to work on your motorcycle and get those maintenance jobs done that you've always wanted to have a go at. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for plenty more on More Bikes.